Hello folks, my name is Mark. This is Why Hate the World. How you guys doing? So, Jeffrey Epstein has committed suicide, which is, I don't know about you, but my gut reaction to that is complete 100% pure grade A bullshit right there. I don't know, and I'm just gonna straight out say it, right? I think he was fucking murdered. Okay, I'm sorry. I bullshit. I don't believe that for a fucking second. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was really, really into conspiracy theories. I was all over that shit. And it came from, basically when I was a kid, I really liked UFOs. So I read everything I could about aliens and UFOs and, Barney and Betty Hill and stuff like that, all the supposed first contactees and, that kind of thing, Billy Meyer and George Adamski and whatever. And then there were also TV shows like the X-Files and stuff that influenced me a lot as a child. Well, not really a child by that point. I was already teenager and shit. And by the time the 2000 rolls around, George Bush steals the election, right? I was really deep into this shit now. But the problem with that is that the more you read about that kind of thing, the deeper it goes and the more ridiculous they become. So it starts with the JFK assassination, things like that, and, Gulf of Tonkin, whatever, conspiracy theories that may have some basis in fact, right? And then before you know it, you're reading about shape-shifting reptilian aliens fucking in the British Royal, British Royal line or whatever, taking over the Earth and New World Order shit, and it's like, it just gets more and more ridiculous, right? So I never really believed to that level, right? I was never really ready to, like, take a fucking rifle and go shoot a bunch of people out of a water tower because I thought that, the evil Jews were running the world or something. No, never. And to be honest, I kind of got out of all of it, right after the 2004 election. Right around that point is when it started breaking for me, because it seemed like every time there was a news event, it would just get folded into the conspiracy theory, and it didn't take a lot of examination to realize that it was all bullshit, right? But I still kind of read about it because I think it's interesting. I don't necessarily believe any of that stuff. I do think it's interesting. Right now, this I think is an example of why I think people tend to fall for that kind of thing. Why, right now, this event that we just saw, right, is why people believe in conspiracy theories. Because think about what just happened, okay? We had a guy, a highly rich, extremely rich, corrupt person, who made a career out of pimping out underage girls to, the rich and the powerful. Who, man, this guy has connections to an ex-president and also the current sitting president, who was on suicide watch, suddenly commits suicide, right when he's about to dump a bunch of names. I mean, I think it wasn't that long ago that he actually tweeted, he made a tweet that said that he had evidence that could put Bill and Hillary Clinton in jail, right? And not only that, I mean, I know a lot of the conservatives out there are jumping all over that. Well, you got to remember this guy had lots of connections to Donald Trump also. There's pictures of them hanging out at a party and stuff like that. Donald Trump knew the guy. He hung out with him. His secretary of fucking, I can't even remember, but like one of his cabinet was the guy that got him his basically slap on the wrist deal about 12 years ago. Jeffrey Epstein was actually convicted about, I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago, and he got this like incredibly light sentence where he didn't even have to like go to prison. He just basically slept there. He was allowed to go out and go to work throughout the whole normal day and just went back to sleep at the fucking prison. That's not going to prison. And apparently he went right back to his like underage pimping shenanigans after he got out of that. Well, that was because of, people tied to the Trump administration. I can't remember the guy's name, but, look it up, right? So, it's not like there's one side of the political spectrum that's that this guy was aligned with. He seemed, his occupation seemed to be to pimp out his, underage prostitutes that he like forced, sex slaves basically that he forced into like being sex slaves to powerful people and then blackmailing them. So the reason why people believe in conspiracy theories is because they see gaps, in our knowledge. They see the official explanation for certain events that just doesn't make any sense, right? And that's, obvious bullshit. So there must be some other explanation, right? So they just fill in those gaps with speculations and stuff like that. Something that sounds a lot more plausible, right? Here we have a guy that was, just tried to commit suicide, who was on suicide watch, who commits suicide. The highest profile case going on right now in the entire nation, connected to very important and powerful rich people, commit suicide, right? Just so conveniently commit suicide. And now none of those cases are going to go forward. Now, none of those other people who were in those sex parties with Jeffrey Epstein are going to get, held accountable, right? Remember, Donald Trump is also implicated in that as well. There's a 13-year-old girl who came forward who said she was 13 at the time, basically claims Donald Trump raped her at one of these parties, right? That's been an accusation that's been out there for years, right? And nobody believed it because there was no evidence. Well, here goes the one guy who could actually give us evidence, conveniently ends up dead. Okay, is it a coincidence? Right? I don't know. I doubt it. I highly doubt it. Anybody with a brain, your bullshit radar should be going off like crazy right now. And so here you go, folks. Here you go. This is a perfect fucking example. Example of why people believe crazy things. It's because sometimes the official story is just not believable, right? So will there ever be anything, will these people ever get held accountable? Will we ever really know the truth of what's going to happen? Probably not. Most likely what's going to happen is nothing. It's just going to slowly go away, right? There'll still be some news stories and stuff, and then every once in a while something will pop up, and then maybe some low-level guy might get busted and go to prison or whatever. But no, it's nothing. I don't think anything's ever going to happen. I don't think Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton are going to jail. I don't think Donald Trump is going to get implicated. I think that at some point in the near future, all the evidence that they got from Jeffrey Epstein is going to get lost. Remember that he had, supposedly videotapes with the names of the girls on them that he pressed into sex slavery, right? Yeah, all that shit's going to get lost or burn in a fire, or there'll be a terrorist attack that just happens to hit that room portion of the FBI building, something like that, right? And we'll just never hear about it ever again, because, that's really the world we live in, So, I mean, I don't know, I say what you want about people who believe conspiracy theories, and some of it's really wacky, but some of it's not so fucking wacky, right? And I think right here where we're seeing it happen in real time, this is actually real shit. It's real, this is a real cover-up that's happening right now. At least I think so. I don't know. And, does that make me crazy? I don't fucking think so. Anyway, that's all I got, folks. Adios.